Good afternoon. Our investigation of our escaped prisoner continues. Rondell Reed still on the loose. We are following up on numerous leads as we speak. Today we shifted our investigation into an area of leads that had been developed from not only inmates that were housed in that particular A block with both Reed and Taylor, but as well as the two female accomplices, as well as Mr. Taylor, who have been providing us information since their incarceration. Ms. Pike and Ms. Welker, again, are providing information to us on some of the specifics from that evening, which of course we are using to develop additional leads and follow-up. Also, we have developed more leads throughout the nation, and I can assure you that with our federal partners with the U.S. Marshals, we are searching high and low for Rondell Reed. Rondell Reed is our primary concern. We have some secondary concerns, but right now our mission is to capture Rondell Reed and bring him back to justice. In front of you, I've provided you I will be providing you with a roadmap of how Reed and Taylor came to know each other, whether they're different travels throughout the facility, they're different pods, they're different cells, and they're different beds. And you will see that on September the 30th, inmate Taylor was assigned A block, cell 3, and then on October 17th, Reed was assigned A block, cell number 3, where their partnership and or friendship, we presume, began. That was Monday, October the 17th, and as you know, the escape, as mentioned earlier today, was in the early morning hours of October 24th. We do know, again, there was a face-to-face meeting at 12:30 a.m. on October 24th with Taylor and a correctional deputy of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, and we have indicators that approximately 12:42 a.m. is when the two exited our campus. In other words, when they left campus. We also have information that we believe very, very valid, that not only did Ms. Pike and Ms. Welker have some type of rendezvous with inmate Taylor, but they were instrumental in aiding and abetting. We also have information that Pike and Welker and Taylor were together in Martin County and Stewart in the early morning hours, presumably about 2.5 hours after the escape, and were witnessed by a Stewart police officer. Furthermore, we have information that Welker and Pike, upon dropping off inmate Taylor in the Martin County Jensen Beach area, they in fact returned to Indian River County, at which point made what we think are some errors in judgment which led us to them. Upon questioning them extensively in non-custodial arrest capacity, they were able to provide us with the information that led us ultimately to Taylor. Since those three arrests, we have been examining lots of physical evidence, not only left behind in the cell, but some physical evidence that we found in the field, as well as interviewing all 17 remaining inmates that were in A block. As you know, there were 17 remaining inmates. They have been cooperative, and we have been interviewing them as well. Any questions with respect to
cash-wise? Is there any indication that either Reed or Taylor were given cash by these women?
We have no indications of that.
So what time did you say, Sheriff, they escaped at 12:42 Monday morning?
Our indications right now are in our rather grainy videos. We have what appears to be two shadows at approximately 12:42 a.m. Going under the final fence, going under, as you know, they went through the air-conditioned vent, through the pipe chase, through over two barbed wire fences, through a metal steel door, and then ultimately dug under the final fence. To the best of our information, it appears that that was around 12:42 a.m. Recall at 12:30 there was a face-to-face, we think an intentional request by inmate Taylor to distract one of our correctional deputies at 12:30 a.m. And then some 12 minutes later, after the chase, after the air conditioner vent, after 2 barbed wire fence, after a metal door, and digging under a fence. Some 12 minutes later, we believe they exited our campus.
So
Can you
the
tell us
last
what
time a
that
deputy,
distraction was at 12:30? What that interaction was?
Typically in a correctional facility, you will have inmates ask questions of deputies, whether it's inmate requests that are constantly occurring or perhaps just a distraction. This was no specific request. In other words, it wasn't any type of medical need or urgent need. This was somewhat of a superficial request to see.
But he had made the initial contact with the deputy.
Taylor had, and if you recall how the pod is set up, if you can imagine a large day room, and in particular A block, we have 9 specific cells. Those 9 specific cells are locked, and they contain 2 inmates apiece for a total of 18. This particular night we had 19, so one of the 9 cells had 3 inmates in it. Cell 103 in A block housed only Reed and Taylor, and the only air conditioner duct in that block was in cell 103.
the last time the deputies actually saw either of them was at 12:30 a.m.?
We can verify at 12:30, yes. We also know that recorded cell checks took place at 1:12 a.m., at 2:04 a.m., at 3:08 a.m. These are recorded where a deputy walks into the block, does a visual inspection of the 9 cells, and what we call a flesh check. However cursory or however thorough that was, that is being investigated internally. But we do know that these inmates additionally had makeshift dummies under a cover as if to give the appearance that in fact they were sleeping in bed. How their particular cell was located, if you were looking into the cell, they would be vertical, in other words, bunk beds, if you will, on top of each other, head facing towards the correctional deputy. So when he or she approached or looked at the cell, and we do have photos of that for you, they would see essentially lumps under a blanket. We're required by our Florida Model Jail Standards to conduct a visual inspection of every inmate every hour. Please know that we hold 717 inmates. On this particular night, we had just over 500. These high capacity inmates in Block A, Cell 103, certainly we're on our lookout. Unfortunately, there appears to be either a breakdown or a humanistic breakdown, mechanical or humanistic, and those will be thoroughly investigated. Our primary focus right now is Rondell Reed. We continue to field numerous leads. We continue to follow up on numerous leads. In fact, you may have noticed a group of our deputies that were pursuing leads in the Gifford area. We will continue to follow each and every lead that comes into this office, with our goal being putting Rondell Reed behind bars.
Sheriff, you mentioned at least one outer camera, and it caught an image of them digging. Were there issues with other cameras on the outside?
We have, not to say there were issues, we have over 100 cameras in the facility. That is to the best of my knowledge, that is the best view that we have of that particular area. Coincidentally, we have been approved in the past of budgeted dollars for additional cameras. Those cameras are still weeks away from being installed.
Sure.
They have been paid for, however.
All right, one question about the bed checks. You said you have a physical bed check
Yes, ma'am.
and the flesh bed check. Do you have to touch? Do you have
No.
to see breathing
No,
up and down?
ma'am. You would typically in a flesh check, you would shine a flashlight in a cell, and if you can see flesh, that's considered a flesh check. Absolutely 100% sure that it's flesh, and the rise and fall of the chest. Now recall this is it was documented at 1:12 a.m. that a check occurred. However cursory or however thorough that was will be investigated. I will tell you that in doing those checks, the deputy walks into the common area, if you will, and then looks into each of those 9 cells. He does not open each cell specifically and walk in and touch or get that close. He doesn't have to get that close, but he is required to see flush checks and or the rise and fall of the chest.
Sheriff, you had mentioned that y'all are interviewing the other 17 inmates, and you said, quote, they have been cooperative. Can you speak to what type of information that you've been able to glean from these other inmates?
Not at this time, only that they have been beneficial to some of the information.
Sheriff, tell me about you have the 100+ cameras. How many people are watching the cameras? How many monitors do you guys have? I mean, was this something that in your initial thought was, how could you have missed this, or it's
Right.
possible they could have missed it?
Sure. If you can imagine the camera set up at some of your large commercial areas, where although you may have 100 cameras, you may only have 24 on a particular screen in small blocks. All of them are recorded. However, the officer in charge monitors those, and they have a cycle of rotation. They give different views throughout the facility. It would be nearly impossible for him to focus on all at one time, and at this point we don't believe that that particular view, had he been monitoring it, unless he had a very sharp eye, have noticed it. When I viewed it, I had to have it pointed out to me. Number one, I'm not real familiar with looking at those cameras each and every day, but after the shadow was discerned to me, I was able to pick it up.
Any changes yet that you've made, or you still investigating?
We're still on moderate lockdown. We have not resumed normal activities. There has been no recreation on any of the rec stations, limited visitation, limited telephone calls. We will continue to harden this facility. As you may know, in 2005, December 1st, 2005, after that escape, there were some hardening efforts to the tune of, I believe, about $5,000. And I can tell you that we will continue to harden that. Clearly, more dollars need to be spent in harden that, but more importantly, there's got to be some modifications in the way we handle the personnel.
Sheriff, talked about your concerns, the longer that Rondell Reed is on the run.
Twofold. One, the longer that Rondell Reed is on the run, obviously we're concerned. But the flip side is we continue to get outstanding leads, and we continue to get more and more information. We have information not only in his personal health, but some of the characteristics and traits that he's shown in the past are tendencies that we think are certainly located.
And are you confident that he has left this area?
We're not confident that he's left the area, but we are extending all of our resources outside the state of Florida as well as inside the state of Florida with the help of the U.S. Marshals, some other federal agencies, as well as Florida Department of Law Enforcement. All of the municipalities in this community have helped out tremendously. More importantly, the community has picked up the phone and made phone calls, and we were following up on every one of those leads.
Will some of your employees face any discipline for allowing this to happen?
That's yet to determine, but anytime you have a situation like this, a thorough examination of everything. In most instances, you have either a mechanical issue, a humanistic issue, or some type of other type of issue. But we will certainly be providing you with a thorough report. Our primary concern is Rondell Reed. I'm very certain that this facility is secure as we speak. I will assure you that once Rondell Reed is captured, we will go forward with the other part of that investigation.
Sheriff,
Has
you had
Taylor been
mentioned that
helping? Has he been helping and answering all your questions?
Taylor has been interviewed several times.
Sheriff, you had mentioned at 4:30 this morning there was a nurse call for medication for Rondell Reed, and that's when that was discovered that they were no longer in their cell. Can you speak to his medical condition, what medication he might be on? Is it a possibility that he might show up at the pharmacy looking for medication to take care of whatever his condition is?
At 4:30 a.m. on the morning of October 24th, in what we would call a nurse call, inmate Reed typically was dispensed medication. That, of course, required a physical check upon the deputies going into that specific cell. 103 A block is when they physically discovered the bundles of newspapers and books underneath the blanket, and that was how we initially discovered that he in fact was missing. With respect to his specific medical condition, I'm not at liberty to speak about that. However, we feel that that is something that is an investigative tool that will also assist us in his capture.
At 12:30 in the morning, what did Taylor ask the deputy for?
It was nondescript. It was essentially a distraction method. And I will tell you that inmate Reed, as you are well aware of, was captured in the northern part of this country and brought back to us. In fact, the documents that I'll give you today indicate when he came back. It's very apparent that he's had some physical injuries in the automobile crash that he was involved in. Again, we think that is helpful in the capture of Rondell Reed, and we hope to release some more information as soon as we can confirm that may help your viewers and your listeners discern who Rondell Reed is. Remember, Rondell Reed, 5'11", 180 pounds, gray hair, tattoos, over 9 tattoos on his hands and his arms. It's significant to note, on his hands. You don't see tattoos on hands all the time. You have pictures of where he may have attempted to disguise himself. We urge you and we urge your listeners to call us, 911, wherever they are. This is an emergency. This is a fugitive that is wanted not only for his escape, but for the murder that he's responsible for.
Is Reed physically fit? I mean, I know he had injuries, a broken leg and something with his neck. Is he physically fit, or is he limping? I mean, he got away, but I mean, is he physically fit?
Compared to Levi Taylor being 25 and him being 52, Reed being 52 with some type of physical ailments, I think it's safe to say that age perhaps played a role in their direction of travel.
Did Welker and Pike ever actually have Reed physically in their vehicle?
We are continuing to look at that aspect of it, and we'll let you know as soon as we know.
Have you had any sightings, period, of Mr. Reed since he left the jail anywhere?
Any confirmed sightings? No, we have not.
Sheriff, have you changed your behaviors here at the jail at all since this happened, other than going on lockdown?
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate at all?
Well, obviously anytime you have a facility where the employees are working under the conditions that you can imagine working in, this has certainly shocked all the employees of the correctional facility. We continue to rebrief, debrief, go through training protocol, go through the seriousness, go through any complacent issues, and make sure that we are following the established protocol. But we're very proud of the men and women that work in that facility. That facility, as you know, is recently accredited, which is only one of 11. So those men and women are proud of what they do. At times, with any large organization or any large agency, there's possibilities of things perhaps being complacent with. We will address these and we will move forward. I can assure you, our number one concern is Rondell Reed.
So this is a spare no expense, in other words. I mean, overtime costs. I mean, you guys are probably spending a lot of money to try to bring this future back to
We are,
justice.
absolutely. And our primary concern is the residents of Indian River County and assuring that this person is under arrest.
Where do you think he is at this point? He could be almost anywhere? Any state, basically anywhere?
We're extending every resource throughout the nation as well as in this county, looking for Rondell Reed. At this time, it would not be appropriate for me to tell you where we think he is.
Would you say you're getting close to catching him?
I think every day or every hour, with the more leads that come in and the more intelligence that we develop, that we will be taking Rondell Reed into custody.
You mentioned this morning that you all were doing a bridge search west of the jail. You mentioned this afternoon in different areas. Can you speak a little bit more to what that search entails, what exactly you might be looking for?
Continuing primarily this morning with an article search, given information that we received from not only some of the inmates that were housed in that particular hub, but the 3 of the arrests that were made Monday evening from information that they were giving us. However truthful that was or not, we're not certain. But I will tell you that every lead that we come up on, and we've had dozens today, we follow up and we pursue with all the vigor in the world.
But as to certain items that you might be looking for, has it pointed you to clothing, or it might be a list, or it might be papers,
Right.
contact information?
Right. We did have some physical evidence that was left behind, that obviously is confidential at this time, but has importance during our grid search. We're looking and listening and smelling for things that perhaps were overlooked at one point. For example, clothes possibly hanging on a line that somebody in need of clothes would be wearing and would take. Anything that may be missing, any sounds or noises or anything that anybody may have seen. I can tell you that articles that are located certainly have evidentiary value and perhaps could lead us to Rondell Reed. Primary concern is Rondell Reed. We will not rest until Rondell Reed is in jail.
I know you can't say what type of articles you found, but did you find any articles in the group?
I can't speak about that right now.
Is the reward still $1,000?
It is, and we're looking forward to procuring some dollars to advance that.
Nobody is eligible for the reward for the capture of the other guy, correct? Because
Correct.
law enforcement found him.
Correct. If we're done with Rondell Reed, I do have one thing to discuss. As you know, we had a bank robbery on October the 17th. You may have heard that we had a robbery at the south end of the county today at the US 1 mobile station on the south end of our county. We have a very high probability today that that white male that was arrested today for robbing the mobile station is the same person that robbed the Seacoast Bank at 12th Street and US 1. We will be getting you further information, but we have strong indicators that it's one and the same person, and we will be releasing that information to you as well.
How frustrating is it for you to come out here and continue to have to say we're still looking for him and we don't really know where he is, but we have every intention of getting him?
Obviously, it's extremely frustrating, but knowing that we have in place the incident command system where we have two distinguished leaders that are following up on every lead and organizing and giving specific assignments. Although it's frustrating, it is rewarding to see the signs and the symptoms that we know we're in the right direction. All right.
Any other questions? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Well, I got these.
I'd like for each of you to have this. This is Reed's history of his stay in our facility and Taylor's stay. And you watch them, how they weave, and then they came together on October the 17th. So I think you'll find this interesting, the different hubs and the blocks that they stayed in. You also see when they came into our custody, as you know, when Reed came into our custody, he was apprehended after a high-speed chase. He also spent time in the hospital under our care. And you also see how long Taylor's been here and the places that he stayed. So if you juxtapose those two, you will, I think you'll find that exciting.
About the airports in the area, what are you doing regarding airports and this picture and so on?
Every public and private facility, from UPS to FedEx to the GO lines, to hospitals, to airports have been notified. And recall initially, upon notification of the escape, an FCIC bulletin went out nationwide. Pictures of Rondell Reed are everywhere, and they will continue to be everywhere.
Miami Airport?
Absolutely, everywhere. We have an electronic format that we send these out to everyone.
Does he have a passport?
I don't believe so.